I thought this movie was just okay when it came out in 2009. Now, watching it in 2025, I am watching this movie realizing I was an idiot in 2009. I see the boys in almost every comic movie since in it in 2025. They've all pulled something from Watchmen, superheroes with real people, problems that have real opinions, negative and positive, doing both good and bad things all the time. It's great. And I'm finally seeing what those that got back in 2009 that were way ahead of the curve, acting, camera work, effects, costumes, story, nostalgia, all put on full display in this movie. Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Jackie Earle Haley put on a show in a movie that I felt like everyone was exceptional. That's how good they are. Give this another go if you're somehow here hearing this debating on whether you should watch this movie. Christopher Nolan was right. This movie indeed came out too early. This movie not only shows us the pictures, but also the people behind them. What I love about Watchmen is that it's mature and basic study of how our society is structured. There's so many quotes that can be used in today's world. And with Zack Snyder's visuals, it really blends well, I gotta say. People calling this movie boring are the ones watching 4 movies a year. And they're all action-heavy blockbusters. What makes Watchmen feeling so fresh in 2020 is that it's completely different to most of Marvel films. The characters in Watchmen feel more like real people than idealistic figures you usually get. They age, they change opinions on things, they do wrong things. The world is also much more similar to ours in 2020 than it was in 2009. Brilliant film, 9 out of 10. The times did change. After so many superhero movies, this one has become the best one of them. After 14 years, I watched this film again. And after all the MCU shenanigans, I gotta say this film is a masterpiece, from the story to the music and the superheroes. The fact that they are vulnerable makes it more interesting. Like I said in the title, the world wasn't ready for this movie. If it had came out in this time, it would have blown the front door. The way it was made, special effects, graphic fight scenes, nudity, dark tone, and soundtrack. Zack Snyder really knocked it out of the park with this one. This is how every superhero film should be made, not a blockbuster comedy wannabe. For over 25 years now, I have cited Blade Runner as my favorite movie of all time. After seeing Watchmen, I may have to reconsider. First, I'm glad I went to see the movie alone. I've heard so many comments focused on a blue dick or the length of the movie or some other such nonsense that I'm sure watching it with someone would have been a constant barrage of commentary and complaint. And no, that's not Javier Bardem. Yes, the movie is long, nearly 3 hours, but unlike the dreadfully insipid Titanic, at the end of this movie, I wasn't asking for those 3 hours of my life back. And as with all such movies, you must be able to look beyond the literal. Watchmen is iconic and iconoclastic, deconstructionist and revisionist, laden with allegory and allusion. Consider, for example, the character Ozymandias. I'm wondering how many people who viewed the film ever even heard of Percy Bysshe Shelley's poem by the same name. The character even quotes the poem on a plinth in his Antarctic lair. The allusion is amazing. Here's the full quote. And on the pedestal, these words appear: "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Clearly, one must see the allusion to the work, in this case of a superhero who hopes to leave mankind a lasting legacy, but realizes in the back of his mind that everything is eventually lost in time. Ozymandias was the first poem I ever examined from an expositional point of view, and I was blown away. The use of it in this movie is equally impactful. Then there is Dr. Manhattan, named, of course, for the Manhattan Project, which yielded the atomic bomb. His character is an allegory for God, and his relationship with man mirrors the apparent detachment with which God sees suffering in the world he created. The deity reference is reinforced often, and one thinks of Oppenheimer's citation of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Vishnu takes on a godly form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." In an expository scene in the second act, Dr. Manhattan has a sort of recollection of his life. His account is dizzyingly elliptical, since he does not see time as linear the way others do. This scene has the lyrical feel of my favorite piece of fiction, Alan Lightman's almost unbearably beautiful Einstein's Dreams, and the reference to Einstein cannot be ignored. But the real beauty of Watchmen is the moral diversity of its superheroes. Each is flawed in different ways, allowing us to inhabit different ethical perspectives, intellectually at least, and witness their consequences. Everything from Rorschach's refusal to compromise, which makes him a doomed fugitive, to the ultimate compromise envisioned by Ozymandias, who can dispassionately evaluate scenarios where millions of lives are sacrificed, calls into question our most cherished beliefs. Where does it leave you? Well, that's for you to decide. From a purely entertainment perspective, Watchmen is stunning. The visuals are state of the art and do not suffer from the sort of mental rejection I have for some movies that present too many special effects to swallow at once as reality. And Watchmen doesn't suffer from Hollywood's apparent fascination with camp in comic book movies. Camp works to some degree in Spider-Man, since he's a somewhat humorous character to begin with, but the excess of camp rendered the Fantastic Four sequel unwatchable. Watchmen proves that superheroes can use more subtle forms of humor, such as irony, without devolving into camp for cheap laughs. And the music? Oh, the music. If you didn't grow up in the 60s and 70s, you will surely miss some of the impact, but don't worry. Even a secondhand recollection of such iconic tunes will suffice. I am reminded of the painfully awful Across the Universe, which couldn't even pull together a decent movie built around the greatest catalog in modern music. Watchmen does it in spades. I LOL'd, I cried. The people in the theater applauded at the end. I vowed to wait 24 hours before come up with a review to see if my euphoria passed. It hasn't.